Hey everybody, Dr. Serrano here, and this is a live feed. So I'm excited today because, if you're anything like me, anytime there's a health documentary that comes out, I am all over it. I want to see it, I want to break it down to see if it's leaning one way or another. I want to see if the research behind it is good. I mean, all that juices me up. I get excited. So today I'm gonna be reviewing the latest health documentary that I've watched and just recently came out, and it's called For the Health of It. And it's I'm going to review this because I've had a lot of patients come up to me recently and they're asking me about this movie. What are my thoughts? Well, what do you think about the whole movie? So if you haven't seen it, I do recommend you go see it. It has a lot of great information, a lot of great stuff in there, but watch this to the end before you see it because you might have some of those same questions that I've been hearing. And before I get going, if you like this video, if you like the stuff that I've been giving you guys and posting, just give us some thumbs up, press that share button, give us some hearts, and comment below. That's the biggest way that I can really give you guys value. What are you guys looking for? What do you want to know about health? I've been blessed to help thousands of patients throughout my career, and in doing that, I want to bring you guys what I've learned. So let's get started with For the Health of It. So the movie, I'll give you a little bit of background. It's a movie that talks about how detrimental our healthcare system is. I mean, it talks about who's funding the healthcare system, who's funding the food suppliers, and it goes through all that, and it has some great footage about that and what's really happening. The issue here, I'm going to give you a couple of the issues that I had, and I'm going to give you all the positive things at the end as well. So I like that it's pointing out what the issue is, right? There is a problem. We all know there's a problem when it comes to our healthcare system, when it comes to our chronic diseases. We know there's an issue. So what's the solution? So in this movie, it was very much geared towards, or leans towards, or not very much, I mean, it's all leaning towards being a vegan. Getting all of your micronutrients and macronutrients through vegetables, through plants. And here's I would say two concerns there. Number one, my number one concern is the fact that I always tell patients, if you're doing the vegan right, if you're doing that, that's okay. If you're doing it because of animal rights, or because you don't like the way they treat animals, all that stuff there, then that's okay. That's a philosophical view of it, right? It's a personal view. Now, if you're doing it just because of the health of it, at that point, I kind of step back and say, whoa, let's look at the reality. And I love this because what I did was, probably 4 or 5 years ago, I started doing a workshop. And the workshop, I called it Thriving to 100. Why thriving? Because nobody wants to just live to 100. We can medically get people to live to 100, and literally the last 20, 30, 40 years of our lives never were truly living. So we don't want to live to 100, we want to thrive to 100. So in that talk and setting up for that, I was doing a lot of research, and what I did was I found pockets of people groups that had a high percentage of people that lived to 100. So these are different tribes or just groups of people that have a high percentage of people who live to 100. So in setting up for that, I thought, if I study these people groups, right, there's 5 of them I looked at, if I study them, like their nutrition, their activity levels, there's gonna have to be a connecting link between all of them that is why they have a high percentage of not only people living to 100, but really thriving. Like, still at 90, 80, 90, 100 years old, they're still contributing to society. And what I found was this. What I found was that there was a Maasai Tribe, and their food source, almost all protein. I mean, everything they had. Animals and chickens, and they ate a lot of yogurt that they would make into amasi. It's an amasi yogurt. I mean, they had a ton of proteins coming from animals. So then I looked at another group, and I'm saying, well, that there's one thing. And another group was completely plant-based. All plant. That's all they ate. And so that got me a little confused. Then there's another one over there eating grains. And there's one that was a mix. And so you start looking at all of this, and I started thinking to myself, what is the commonality? Because it's not that being a vegan, it makes you healthier, because this other group over here who had almost all proteins in their diet, they had the same rates of cancers, heart disease, and diabetes, which was just virtually none. They had none. There was no chronic diseases in all these populations. So after doing enough research, and then they came, there's a group out there, and you can Google this, called the Blue Zone, and they kind of did the similar research. And what they found, and what I found, it's not that are you eating a lot of meat, it's not that are you eating a lot of veggies, it's the food that you're consuming, is it processed or not? And that is the key. In all of these societies, all of these different people groups that I've studied, all of them had food. Actually, none of them had any food that was processed. It was all natural foods, the way that God had intended us to eat. So if it was a fish that they were eating, guess what? It was a naturally raised, wild-caught fish. It wasn't a farm-raised fish. It was chicken. Same, all of their foods. And I say this because this was, loved the movie. The movie had a lot of great points for the health of it. Getting back to the movie now. But this was my biggest, as I sat there and I just listened to what they were saying, this is where I kind of saw the biggest disconnect, because it is a vegan movie. It's a movie that wants to move you towards more plant-based, which I agree. We all have to eat more plants. We all have to eat more vegetables. But because it's so far on that end that they kept on saying in the movie, you should eat no animal protein. You should eat no meat protein because it causes disease. And people take that as all animal protein. But if you really listen carefully to the movie, they kept on saying it is processed meat that causes disease. Not once did they say, if you get organic, nice, wild caught, and pasture raised, never had any pesticides, never that kind of meat, right? They never said that causes disease, because it does not. There's nothing out there. There's no research to support that case. And this is why, when you look at society, you look at people doing the paleo diet, they'll do the Mediterranean diet, they'll do a vegan or a cleanse or a juice and all these different things. And when you look at that, and you're looking at these groups and you're saying, well, how's it possible that you have all these different nutrition plans or diets out there, and on all of them, if people really stick to them, right, make the changes, there's people that are getting off medication, that are reversing disease, that chronic disease is lowering. How's that possible? Because the commonality between all of them is that they absolutely take out all of the processed foods. So, kind of wrapping this up here, the funny thing is, at the end of the movie, if you watch to the end and you listen closely, there's a one-line portion in there, which the guy who's doing the whole movie, the documentary, at the end he says, even though I know I can eat some meats, and it won't negatively affect my health, I choose not to, because of the animal side of things, like the way they treat animals and all that there. So even in the movie at the end, a lot of people miss that part. And what I'm seeing patients come in and saying is, I'm not going to eat any meat anymore. I'm like, really? Like, why? Because you think it causes disease, or because you a philosophical belief that you really want to, be conscious of the animals. So that's my review there. I think the movie has a lot of great points. And I think there's a couple takeaways. Number one takeaway is this. If you are out and you are eating out at a restaurant, it is more than likely that if you are getting animal products, they are processed. So a great thing to do if you're eating out, probably a safer thing to do, is to eat a more vegetarian or vegan type of meal. But at home, and there are some restaurants that do have some great sourced meats and animal products that are organic and natural and not processed. At home, though, we here, locally, there's a farm that we get all our produce and all our animal products from. It's an Amish family. They're amazing the way they treat the animals. It is amazing to go and see the way they love these animals and the way they raise them. All natural, not processed. So I am 100% comfortable eating those kinds of meats and animal products, because the research supports, and what I've seen and what I've learned, through my studies is that it all supports that if you have good animal products, guess what? You're doing a good thing for your body. There's a lot of nutrients in there, actually even liver. Everybody out there, I want to say everybody, most people out there will look at liver and they call it the nature's multivitamin because it's just so packed with good nutrients and good multivitamins. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this review on For the Health of It. If you haven't seen it, like I said, I think you should actually see it. It's a great movie. It has a lot of good points. But you have to just be careful and be tuned in for those couple things. It's processed meats that cause the damage, not all meats. And I hope you enjoyed it. If you liked it, give us some hearts, some thumbs up, press the share button, and write any comments in. Any comments you had. I want to know what you thought about the movie as well. And guys, love you guys. I will see you next week again. And thank you for all the thumbs up.